Yes, I have been in Poland like first time I think it was in 2007, 2008, I'm not quite sure. And then like the Jiu-Jitsu here has been grown so much, and I'm really happy there. Like I can see here on the Copacabana Academy, the level of the guys. All the time that I come here. Like that's my third time. The guys getting better and better. And then a good thing is here is the guys work really hard, and then they always like with the mind open to learn. And then I see the Jiu-Jitsu sport grow here. Every time that I come here, and then I'm looking forward to see even more in the next few years. I want to see like a Poland with a, with the powerhouse of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu as well. Yeah, definitely my Jiu-Jitsu always change. Like always I'm trying to improve, and then always I try to get better. Like of course, it's been different when I was like first time that I compete as a black belt as a 23 years old. So I'm like a lot of more experience now. Like I use a lot of more like technique than strength. Like I know how to play the game. I know how the game works. And then my Jiu-Jitsu always gonna change. Like it's never gonna be the same. I have a couple injuries that like slow me down a little bit, but now I'm like injury free. I'm like 100% healthy, and then I'm just like with my mind open to keep improving and keep getting better. And then what you can expect to me is always always every year. I know you get old, but as far as the technique wise, always I'm gonna be improving and getting better. Yes, like everybody talking about, like the super fights. Yes, I got invited to compete. I got a phone call from Halek Grace, one of the guys that is organizing the tournament, the super fights. But unfortunately, I had already my trip to Europe set up. Like so I couldn't, had a chance to, say yes, because I'm going back to United States like a few days before the tournament, and then I'm not gonna have the time to put on to work and then put a good show for the guys they're gonna be watching. So I decided to not accept the invitation, but I'm looking forward for next one. About the fights, like it's very interesting role, but from the same time, like it's hard to know. Like it's hard to know how the guys gonna work on the game. They have like a Roger Gracie against Marcus Buchecha. Like a Buchecha is like a explosive guy that start really hard and then never give up. He always like looking for, like for the points, for winning the fight. I definitely agree with Andre Galvão. Andre Galvão thoughts. Because if you think about, if the guy wants to only play defense, if you don't finish the guy, you don't win. So he doesn't need to worry about points. So if you have no time limit until you submit the guy, both is gonna be, try to finish each other and push the pace. And then not just like one guy try to not tap, and then the other guy try to finish and then try to win. So that would change the whole point. I would agree to have a point and then 20 minutes matchup, and then like if you try to finish, you get more points, like Andre Galvão said on his interview. And then I would rather to have a rule like that, because on that way you have like both guys really try to win. Because I don't know, they might have some guys that will just try to not tap and then prove, okay, I fought this guy 20 minutes and then I didn't tap. But if you have no time limit, one guy is gonna tap on the point. If you want to have like an only submissions tournament, I totally agree. They should have like no time limit. Okay, this year, like I'm gonna finish my seminar trip in Europe in October 6th. So, like for me, compete the tournament, I really like to be prepared, well prepared. So I don't know, like if I go back home and then I'm able to train, I'll be competing on the No-Gi Worlds. But I'm not sure if I'm gonna be, because it's 1 month after I go back home and then, acclimate and then start to train again. And then train. But definitely, if they're really going to have the Jiu-Jitsu Pro League, the IBJJF tournament on December, I'll be competing on that. And then probably, for sure, this is going to be my next tournament. And then I plan to next year, if you got look for me, and then I'll be healthy the whole year, I'll be trying to compete as much as I can. I'm like really looking forward to compete here in the European Championship for the first time, and then and then the main tournaments of the IBJJF, like European Championship, Pan Am's, World Cup Pro next year. But this year probably or no gi Worlds or going to be on the Jiu-Jitsu Pro League, the IBJJ new tournament in December. Yeah, I like to train, hard, I think you need to have a desire to the preparation, need to be bigger than the desire to the tournament, and then I really try to also improve my preparation, and then this time for the World Championship, pretty much Monday, Wednesday, Friday, I train Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, 3 times a day, as one time specific training, one time sparring session, then one time a drill session, and then Tuesday and Thursday one time I do conditioning training, weightlifting, and plus like a strength and conditioning, and then pretty much like I train Jiu-Jitsu twice a day, one time sparring, and then one time specific training, and then Saturday is like just like light day, like a light run, and then also a light Jiu-Jitsu training. That's pretty much like how my preparation for the Worlds were this year.